Welcome back to the Marvel Movie Minute, a daily podcast in which we assemble to explore the films of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, 1 minute at a time. In this, our 6th season, we are looking at The Avengers. I'm Andy Nelson from the Next Reel Film Podcast.
And I'm Pete Wright. Eyeball.
That's right. Today we're talking about minute 39, which begins with Guard Down and ends with Ocular Extraction. Back on the show, it's Jay Shepard. Hello, Jay.
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me back.
Oh, it's always good to talk eyeballs with you. So here we are.
Oh, yeah. Well, like I say, I always, carry eyeballs in one pocket and a big stick in another. So
You're sounding more and more like Rocket. Holy cow. All right, so we're continuing our intercutting between our 3 locations. We, start this minute off. We're seeing the guard who had just in the last minute, he heard a sound. He looked down. His comrade in arms down below falls down with an arrow in the throat. So horrible. I mean,
yeah.
I've got to say, somebody needs to hold Jeremy Renner, or I should say Clint Barton, accountable for the way that he chooses to kill people in this particular moment. These are innocent guards, and they get shot in the throat. It's horrible. And the one that we're looking at here, he gets shot in the throat and then falls off the building. Like, it's just terrible.
It really is reprehensible. And I think, is his psychological trauma of being under mind control not enough, Andy?
Is that why we should forgive him?
Remember Budapest? He's had to live with that too.
I guess it depends on the lawyer that he finds to represent him. So
True. Maybe She-Hulk can step in to do some work. Now, before we dig too deep into our minute here, Pete, I wanted to ask you a question. I know I'm probably putting you on the spot, but the logo, the font for the Schaefer Sicher Hiker the Sicher Heitstenst. God, it's terrible. One, I wanted to get your thoughts on the logo, because right around 3 seconds at the beginning of this minute, we've got a great shot of the title, the name of this particular location. And interestingly, they've decided to put the umlaut over the A in red, whereas the rest of the font is all white. And I find it to be a really interesting looking design. And I don't know if you actually did any research on the font or not, but I did want to check.
It hurts me to tell you that I did not on this particular. I did not on this particular font. In fact, I am shamed that I just watched this minute with you, and I didn't even notice there was typographical intrigue going on. So we might have to come back to it, Andy. We might have to do a follow-up episode.
I'll add my 2 cents for that. So
please,
with the 2 red dots for the umlaut, since this is a security service place, would that not indicate the laser sights that the security teams use?
And because it's 2, it could be we're always watching you.
Yeah, that's true.
2 eyes, right?
Little red vampire eyes. They're vampires too, so they work better at night.
Right.
Oh.
Right.
Or the holes from the fangs, right? And
right. Yep.
That would work that way as well.
Yep.
This might be Euro style as a font.
Yeah.
It looks. I'm very familiar with Euro style extended. I think it is, because that's something I had used on one of my websites, and so I think this might be that, which would make sense, right? It's supposed to be Germany. That's in Europe.
It
and
sure
this
is
a style of font, so
yeah,
very much sells it.
I think you might be right. I'm doing a quick what font is to see if I can get the exact one.
What the font?
Oh.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you play around with that. It's I just like it. I think I like it specifically because of the red umlaut. Mm-hmm. I feel that it really stands out in an interesting way. And to your point, like there's interesting reads for a security company to have something like that. So very cool.
Yeah.
So we're cutting from that. We also see, again, we're getting cuts to our Takacs quartet as they continue playing. And then we get the quinjet flying. And I just feel like if this is they're flying at top speed, it just doesn't look like they're flying at top speed. Like I look at this shot of it and I'm like, that's not Mach 2.1. Maybe that's just me. But the clouds moving under them just don't look like they're moving under them very fast.
It's not the most dynamic shot of the quinjet that we've ever seen, right?
It really isn't. And considering they're in a rush to get around, from wherever they were to Stuttgart, it just doesn't seem like they're putting the pedal to the metal here.
You're absolutely right. And now I'm ready to talk to you.
Oh, okay. Can we go back to fonts?
I can't believe how good Jay is. Everybody knows all he really is a big band superstar with his band foxing around the edges. But also, he is a font typeface, extraordinary typeface specialist. It is a variant of Eurostyle, but get a load of this, Jay. Eurostyle next Pan-European narrow regular.
Narrow.
Pan-European. I love that.
Wow.
Yeah, that's how we get the. But one thing that they did do is the umlaut in the typeface itself. Everything is square. Like all the accents have square edges, and the umlaut in the logo, the dots are round. The points are round, and so that is one modification
tweak
to the official typeface.
Nice,
but Eurostyle next Pan-European narrow regular. It is a linotype family.
Wow. Well, it is damn nice to stare at while we watch this stuntman fall off the building.
Yes. Yes, it is.
And I gotta say, in the realm of stunt work, like that's a great fall. Like
that's
he actually,
fall, yeah.
he's going to land on his neck for sure.
Yeah, it's
just like impale that arrow the rest of the way through.
It's terrible the way he does it, but I love watching it. Like the art of actual stunt work, I just find mesmerizing the stuff that they do.
Also, the fact that it's a relatively, other than the music, it's a silent scene, and this whole minute is silent except for the anguished screams at the end.
And the thwick, thwick.
Well, yeah, but I mean, it's silent in terms of no dialogue, I guess.
Sure, yeah.
But even like it's silent enough with the arrow shots and the stunt work and stuff like that. It's it really leads you. Oh, okay, it is stealth, right? It's not your Fast and Furious movie where they're trying to break in somewhere, with rustling of guns and clothes and everything else that you get, and some of these where they're supposed to be quiet.
This does feel very stealthy, and I don't know. I think that in the realm of putting Clint Barton in a situation where he is doing some like covert thievery, it works well when your weapon is an arrow. I like the way that it actually plays in nicely with the silence of the scene, to your point. Now, what do you two think? So we cut to the ground level and we see Barton walking up. He's got a few agents with him. I don't know what sort of agents we're calling. We'll call them Loki agents. And he passes his bow off to one of them so that he can go up to the door. Does that seem like something Hawkeye would do? Or I was like, does he just give his weapon to people?
No, it doesn't.
I was a little surprised by that. I feel like I've never noticed that before.
Yeah. But, I say that because that is my headcanon of him not to just hand his weapon away.
Yeah.
And yet, he does leave it everywhere.
He didn't even take it with him when he went down to talk to Fury earlier.
And we know he left one in the Radisson somewhere.
That is an interesting point, though. I mean, he is such a professional with his weapon. You would feel like he does kind of want to keep it under his control. It's. I'm sure, even though this might be his, secondary weapon, like we were talking about in the other minute, where he didn't have anything when he left the facility at the beginning of the movie, but assuming he has to calibrate this and set it, you don't just hand it to some guy who, whoop, I dropped it,
Yeah.
So
Right. Well, okay. I mentioned this the other day about Hawkeye possibly being the world's worst archer. And since we now have actually seen him in action, he's passed his bow off to somebody. I feel like this is the appropriate time to have this conversation. There is an article by Jim McQuarrie in Wired. I will throw a link up in our show notes for this episode. And thank you to Edward over in Facebook who brought this to my attention because I hadn't seen this article before. But this person knows archery and definitely has wrote about it with Brave, the Pixar movie, and with The Hunger Games, and now writes about it with this film. And this is just he says, I'm sure, Jeremy, he saw it before the movie came out. I think he based a lot of this on the trailer, but he says he shoots like a rank amateur. And then he knows that, that Renner took archery lessons and everything. But what he can see, it says he looks like A, had no coach and was entirely self-taught, B, had an incompetent coach, there are many out there, or C, is a terrible student and refused to do what his coach told him. The simple fact is, I see these exact same mistakes with first-time students all the time. Every single thing I'm about to point out is something I cover in the first lesson, and I have students under the age of 6.
Oh, ow.
So he complains that Clint wears 2 arm guards. He's like, why would the world's greatest archer wear 2 arm guards? Some of my students don't even use 1. Why does he need 2? Because he's smacking the crap out of his arm. That's why. I bet there are many hilarious outtakes of Renner wincing, shaking his injured arm, and cursing a lot after each shot. And then the grip, like the way that he's holding everything is like so completely off. He said his wrist is off to the side in an attempt to get it out of the way, hence the first arm guard. And just like nothing that he's doing is appropriate. So it's really funny. It's a very funny article. And, not to mention he's going to go into stuff like shooting while falling off the building, all of that sort of stuff that we get. But it's funny. It's a good read to get a sense of the archery skills portrayed in the film. Again, as somebody who doesn't know these things, I would never know.
Do either of you guys have a sense, did you watch this and say, gosh, I wonder if he's really bad at this?
No, it just never occurred to me.
Well, and honestly, I think, I haven't seen enough of the behind the scenes, but my hunch is that a lot of the time when Jeremy is using his bow and arrow, or his bow, that there is no string. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of the performance is working with something that's CG, and he's having to imagine that he's doing all of this stuff.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to make it a lot harder.
Either no string or no string and no arrow. Well, no arrow or no arrow and no string.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I think we see nothing later in the big battle at the end. We see him with absolutely nothing.
Yeah. For this, I haven't seen enough of the behind the scenes stuff, but I know on the CW show, The Arrow, it was just a bow, right? There was no string, there was no arrow, and they put that all in post, and so he could go as quickly as he could move his arm, and it was just the effects artist that had to figure out how it would all work.
Yeah, right.
So I kind of wonder, it's like with anybody's job or anything that somebody excels in, if you are really good at rebuilding engines and you watch a movie or a show where somebody's trying to fix a car, or, if I were to watch something with people, trying to manage a project and send emails like, they're not doing it right. It's just, you're very critical about that kind of stuff because it's so innate to you.
Get me started on Apple's show with the podcast show that they have. Mm-hmm. Just let's start talking about shows that try to depict podcasters. I never thought in a million years that the thing that I do would end up on a show for me to lampoon. But sure enough, here we are.
There it is. There it is. So funny. Yeah, it's always fun to laugh at these things. Inevitably, doctors complain about how people playing doctors perform. I think, I feel like it's almost any job you're going to find, except when Tom Hanks plays an astronaut, and then you have real authenticity. I think that's where the line is.
Do you hear yourself when you talk sometimes?
Yes.
Because you're doing it again. You're Tom Hanks fanboy.
Did I show you my trading cards? Vintage. All right. Can we talk about this courthouse, this fantastic courthouse?
We certainly can.
We've talked about it. I know you love talking about this stuff. I want to talk about some of the art, though. Specifically, we've got Loki coming in. Okay, we've got Loki coming in. This is where he's got, he's in the kind of the business duds, the kind of the dapper outfit, similar to what he had in Thor when he went to talk to him in the holding cell. He's and the scepter is now a cane with a glowing blue end. The first piece of art that we're going to see him walk past is this fantastic mural that's on the wall, and it is called King John Signing the Magna Carta. It's this huge, massive piece of art that they have there that I guess they were wanting to have art in here when they built it that were depicting different aspects of the law and its progress. So Sir Frank Brangwyn is the artist behind this. It's a really nice piece of art.
They totally looked out finding such a great location here with all of this like built-in art and design features and stuff like this with, potentially that one table that we see at the end, the two-headed cow table.
Yeah.
That they would have to have brought in for the production.
Right. It's stunning because none of this feels like U.S. Like this painting feels like something you would see in some classic European building from hundreds of years ago. So
again, we're in the Cuyahoga County Courthouse, which is in Cleveland, Ohio. So, and not to diss Cleveland. I'm sure I know there's some really nice stuff that is depicted there because I've driven around on Google Maps and on their Street View, and I'm very familiar with the town.
That's right. And this courthouse was built in 1912, so it's not like this stuff was even that old, And so that's what
100
makes
years
it even
old
more
when the
interesting.
movie came out.
Yeah, 100 years old.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I wonder if they celebrated by showing it in the lobby or something. The building, Charles F. Schweinfurth was the architect of the building and worked with Frederick Wilson on a lot of this stuff, including the stained glass that we see here. The stained glass is this really nice piece that is on the staircase as Loki is walking down. The stained glass piece is called Justice, and it is at the top of the staircase, and it's depicting justice. Justice is depicted with her eyes uncovered, indicating justice should not be blind and her eyes should be open to the spirit and to the letter of the law. The right hand of justice is covered in mail and her left hand is bare to symbolize the dispensation of justice tempered with mercy. Tablets representing the Ten Commandments are on each side of the standing figure, and overhead is the celestial city of the apocalypse, where perfect justice reigns. Holy cow.
That's a lot.
And then Loki dispenses his own justice moments later with his his cane.
Yes, he does. It's amazing, these pieces that they found in here that work so nicely. And it's interesting because, we're in a courthouse, and as you just said, with Loki and justice and everything, whatever the exhibit that we have going on here, everything feels well designed for Loki to be coming in to kind of take over things. It's like this is his first opportunity to present himself to his people of Midgard in a certain capacity.
And we were mentioning that we thought it might be an opera in the last episode, but with the music and with the way Loki carries himself into this entrance and just the entrance that he makes, where he knocks the guard out and everything like that, it does have a very larger than life feeling to it, especially where. Shooting, above as he kind of descends the staircase and everything like that. Right, there's a little more of a scope to the shots inside here. To, like you said, to get that entire piece of art across the top floor, the signing of the Magna Carta one.
Yeah.
The whole thing plays really nicely, and this is where, if this music is still diegetic, it really cracks me up. And your point about the Titanic is ever the more funny, because the music amplifies, keeps playing, and actually, I will say, there's definitely some non-diegetic because it becomes an orchestra. It's not just the four string pieces or the string instruments at this point, but it gets really big and bombastic as he starts, he hits this guy and he grabs the scientist, flips him onto the table. The crowd panics and starts running out, and the band and the string quartet keeps playing on. I kind of love the idea that, they're gonna finish their song before they sink
Whatever
with the Titanic.
They've worked hard on it.
Yeah. They deserve this.
We deserve this. If we're only playing for him as he plucks that guy's eye out, then that's fine.
That's fine. That's enough for us.
So, I'm going to have to ask this. What is that device and why do they have it? Why?
And where did they get it so quickly, especially?
I mean, is it something that came also from Shield's armory? Was it something that Clint had? And if so, it's that is kind of one of my pet peeves in like sci-fi films, is that, when you have technology, it is super built towards the exact thing that you need it to do at that point, right? It doesn't look like it's just, a tool that you had laying around. This is a very specific tool for plucking an eyeball out and creating a holographic rendition of it.
Yeah. In a different place.
Right.
It's so specifically, especially when, I don't know, my sense from that, and again, maybe it's just because I watched that extended scene, but my sense was that Clint had kind of put this plan together and then at the last minute decided, hey, you know what, why don't you come along too, Loki? You can help. But it's like, okay, but it wasn't his. Was he going to have somebody else doing this part of the job, or was he going to
extract it and then like phically take the eyeball over?
Yeah, right. So there's so many steps involved in the process of this, and then to just have the perfect tool for it, it does seem a little far fetched. But yeah. I hear you. I will say, when Loki flips the guy over onto the table, it does look like Egyptian, if we're going to describe the type of art this cow table is, because it's got kind of a gold flat top to it, and it looks like an Egyptian sort of person carved into the top of it. So
or Sumerian, I guess, maybe.
Yeah, could be.
Like Gozer, 3rd century BC
the Gozerian.
Like yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I know where we are now.
Yeah. Wow. All right.
At least it's not Star Trek, right?
You know what? I'll take it. No, I love Star Trek. Star Trek's fine when it's a cinematic experience.
Star Trek.
All right. Fine. All right. So now we've got the eyeball is getting extracted. I had a question. I feel like we all assume that the eyeball is getting extracted. It sounds like it's getting extracted. On the other end, we'll talk about it tomorrow, it kind of looked like the eyeball got extracted. But do you think they needed to extract the eye? Like, it's an eye scan. It's like a retinal scan that they're putting the eye to. Couldn't they just do something a little simpler?
Then Loki's not as villainous, I guess, right?
Well, true.
Yeah, like we need to see him go all the way.
Like he would flip the guy over and slam him down on this table, and then he pulls out his iPhone and says, "Hold still," and he takes a photo of it, and then he just texts it to Clint. Right. So I don't know. It doesn't have the same weight.
Yeah, but is it? I guess the question is, does he need to take the whole eyeball? Like that's a like prop design thing to make Loki menacing, because clearly they've invented this thing that can transmit eyeballness over the air. Right? Do they have to actually gouge the eye out to actually make that right? To make that work?
Like eye-fi.
Do you think Loki kept it afterward as like a trophy?
It's an extraction. It's somewhere. You kind of feel like it gets sucked up into the handle. Like you hear the and then the bzzz, and then like it gets sucked in.
You really enjoy those sounds.
There's a lot of I just did some mouth foley. I'm sorry for everybody who had to listen to that.
It sounds like something that would have happened in like Phantasm or something like that, or Saw, maybe.
Yep.
This is a surprisingly violent tool to be thrown into this film. Like they do it completely bloodlessly with just cuts of, like, I like when we are seeing the shot, like we cut to, like, we're looking at the eye of this cow table.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting the way that they get away with.
And no prop replica of it, as far as I know. So
no prop replica of it.
Like that's a power tool to have sitting like as your centerpiece of your dining room table.
Oh, yeah. I mean, what is that? Oh, let me show you.
You've never seen anything like it.
All right. Well, we're coming right to this point. It's really the answer to the setup that we had with Clint earlier when he says he needs an eye. Now we know what he's talking about. That's kind of the end of this minute. Any last thoughts about anything here, or should we save the rest of our conversation about this for tomorrow?
I think we're okay.
All right. Well, it has been a fun and juicy minute. I don't know if that's a good word to say with this.
Succulent.
You made it weird.
Succulent. Jay, tell everybody again about what you're up to and where they can track you down.
You can check out my work at mculocationscout.com, where you can find locations from the Avengers and all the other MCU films and TV shows. You can also check out retrozap.com. I've got a number of written articles there, including some MCU location stories, Sci-Fi Saturdays, 31 Days of Horror, and a plethora of podcasts, including Superhero Suite and Enjoy Stuff.
Fantastic. So much stuff to check out, everybody. Check it out. The links are in the show notes. And remember, if you're not seeing the show notes in your podcatcher app, then just go to our website, marvelmovieminute.com. You'll see the show notes there. And, you can also find out about our membership at that site as well, where you get all your episodes ad-free, early, and member bonus episodes as well. Lots of good stuff. So that's it for today. We'll be back tomorrow to close out the week. So, Pete, thanks as always.
Now make sure you look for that Ocular Extraction Barton Industries shirt that we're going to have up on the merch store. Barton Associates.
Until next time, true believers.
Marvel Movie Minute is a production of True Story FM, engineering by Andy Nelson. This season's music is Message to the World by Anthony Vega, and this season's show art is by Winston Yabo. Find the show at truestory.fm. If your podcast app allows ratings and reviews, please consider doing that for our show.